Hailing from the Jersey Shore and raised as athletes, the Airey Bros have always shared a passion for physical culture, athletic performance, and human optimization, always striving to be the strongest versions of themselves, mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Along the way, they've met some pretty amazing humans and have had some pretty epic adventures. The intention of Airey Bros Radio is to showcase these amazing people and the impact that they've had on them, and to share tips, tricks, and hacks so that you can win each day, every day.
You're listening to Airey Bros Radio. Be there or be square, because it's all killer, no filler.
What it is, people can believe what they want, but we have to evaluate, where the information is coming from, who's paying the people that are giving us this information, and we have to use some common sense. We really have to start using common sense. So that's all I really try and tell people right now, because the indicators and the data at the beginning of all of this, the middle of it, and now, just has never warranted anything that's been done. And, and then we move on to Operation Warp Speed, and a 6-month development of an injection that goes into humans' bodies. And they're trying to make it mandatory in a lot of places around the world. I don't know what people are thinking. I really don't. It's just, we have immune systems, brother, and you know it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we've all been saying since day one, if, the powers that be were actually talking about ways to get healthy when they talk about health, we all, people like us might be on board with some of the stuff that they're preaching, but instead, they're villainizing things like supplementation, exercise, getting in the sun, communicating with people, being in other people's presence. I've been telling my brother for many years, there's a reason why they put people in solitary confinement in prison, and this is a war on so many different levels, on so many different things, attacking our spirituality and different things like that. And
right.
Whenever we can come together and put out these things, and we've been athletes for a very long time, so human optimization has been something that's been present in our life for me for 25 years now. And so when you start talking about things like BlackOxygen and fulvic acid and vitamin C and that sort of stuff, I'm on board. And I struggle with energy levels as an ultra marathoner and dealing with that sort of stuff, and anything I can do that's going to potentially help that, I'm going to try it out, at least give it, a 3 or 4 month go and do it. So right now I'm on 3 specific things. I'm on the BlackOxygen. I'm on Tim's chemical free body, the heavy metal detox. And I'm also doing the C60 purple power, and I'm giving them a 6-month go exclusively, with the exception of vitamin D, to test the benefits, so I can give people my feedback as an athlete of what they're doing for me. And like I told you, offline, it's only been a week, maybe a week and a half with the BlackOxygen, but my runs, I haven't really looked deep into the data, but just overall feeling my energy levels. Jimmy will tell you, before I started a week ago, I would come home, I run dogs here in Denver, and so I'm putting in, anywhere from 12 to 18 miles a day on the roads too.
Right.
I would come home, I would take a cold shower, and then the first thing I would do would take a nap for anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. And in the last week and a half, I have not taken a nap once. So
that's just one of the crazy benefits that BlackOxygen provides is, I used to fall asleep at my desk literally almost every afternoon at home in my office. I'd just doze off at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I couldn't help it. I was just exhausted. My thyroid was out of whack. Energy levels were destroyed. And, so that's the thing, is the energy, because it activates the mitochondria in the cell, which is the furnace of the cell, that gives you natural energy. So you generally don't get tired nearly as much. I just don't notice it like I used to. And an activation of the thyroid, because there's natural occurring organic iodine in it, so it treats your pituitary. And I can't say it treats, cures, or prevents anything, right?
Sure.
The natural organic occurring iodine, when it gets to the pituitary, some things start happening and pituitary function levels out.
Before, the Rockefeller, medical indoctrination, it was all about holistic things and letting the food be thy medicine and being healthy. And then when we're looking for, ways for petroleum byproduct or petroleum waste and how to get rid of that, and then dumping that onto us, all of a sudden now we're demonizing these things. So, what other than the vitamin C, I mean, maybe go into a little bit more detail what the fulvic acid is and how, I've heard you mention too about the soil that we're getting, even if people think they're eating healthy or they're getting organic food, with the soil and how depleted it is, they're really not getting the nutrients. And we've been to many, health coaching certifications and stuff. And anytime that they talk about the nutrition aspect of it, anyone says, no matter how clean you're eating, even if you say you're doing the best Mediterranean diet ever, you're still not getting enough omegas through that without supplementation. And like, yes, we want to be eating clean, but we do need to be supplementing with things because of what maybe not you and I or Jimmy, what we've done to the earth, but as a whole, we've done a lot of damage to the soil and that sort of stuff. So,
and I just recently discovered, from reading a book called Dead Doctors Don't Lie, which you may have already read it yourself. That was a doctor that did more autopsies on animals, zoo animals and humans that died of natural causes than anybody else in the world. So he knew what he was talking about. And he said all living organisms die, when they die from natural causes, die from mineral deficiency, basically. And he said that there was a reason that men that live in the Himalayan foothills can father children well into their 80s, because their bodies are still functioning correctly because the food that they eat is so mineral rich from the soil that it's grown in, right? So, when you talked about the mineral deficiencies in our soil, and so I've known about that for a long time. What I didn't know that I discovered probably, a month ago, is I started researching into that even deeper, and I found Senate document 264. And have you read that document?
No, I just wrote it down though. So when we get off of here, that's going to be the first thing I do.
So a doctor and some other scientists had basically testified in front of the Senate subcommittee. And this is 1936, so 84 years ago, saying that the explosion in illnesses in the American public was due to depletion of nutrients in the soil that we were farming then, 84 years ago. So you can imagine how bad it is now. And so when they say that they're spraying minerals and stuff like that into the soil, those are inorganic sources. We just don't absorb that. We're organic organisms, as everybody knows, but a lot of people don't understand. They'll go to the store and they'll buy a bottle of one a day or whatever the hell it is off the shelf at the grocery store or the health food store. And if it's not organic, truly organic sources of minerals, meaning not from rocks and things like that, where they, there's forms of fulvic and volvic that come from volcanic rock and other mineral sources like that are inorganic to begin with. And then they use harsh chemical processes to remove the fulvic or volvic material from those sources. So it's not something you want to put in your body to begin with, especially not after they use the chemicals on it. But what BlackOxygen is 1,500 different types of plants that have decomposed for 60,000 years. And it sits 40 to 60 feet below the mud level, the mud line in a Canadian bog in Ontario, the Ontario province. And Mark St. Owen should literally, I've said it numerous times, should literally get a Nobel Prize for his discovery of not only, he went around and he tested a bunch of bogs for the one that was most nutrient rich. And then he found that sediment layer way down inside of the mud of all the nutrients from those 1,500 different types of plants that just sit there in a 5-foot layer, and he sucks it up and he uses a CO2 pressurized freeze drying process and turns it into a powder, which concentrates it. And you put it in here. I got it leaning up here, but you put it into your bottle of water like that. And you drink it twice a day. And now you're getting the nutrients that you're not getting out of your food. And so miraculous things have happened to me. I've seen it happen to thousands of other people. I've gotten so many testimonials. I get them every day from people from athletic performance to their health, to their energy, to their mental clarity, to so many different things, because our bodies just, we can't fight off disease, and we're sick and we don't even realize it. There are a lot of people walking around, they don't even understand how sick they are, because that's what has been normal to them for so long. And when they experience what real health is, when their bodies, the cells get cleansed of the heavy metals and the toxins and get oxygenated and feel that power, that's when you go, my God, I've been living like this for so long. And look, man, until I discovered BlackOxygen, and I had been on a product during my professional fight career, which was literally a tenth to a quarter as good as BlackOxygen, that was enough to make me a world champion. It changed my endurance, it changed my health, it changed my breathing, it changed everything about my life, and made me that my UFC title that I had for almost 4 years was because of that product. And unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. But BlackOxygen, when I heard the 45% more oxygen at the cellular level, I went, you don't even need to say any more. I don't even need to know anything more. Get it to me. I'm going to sell this till the cows come home. I know this is going to help people because I've experienced something like that. And the BlackOxygen, I waited, I think it was 10 days. Then I heard my 2 oldest daughters talking at the dinner table about it. And I didn't say anything to them for 10 days about it. I just said, take it twice a day. I don't care anything else. Just listen to me on this. Just take it. And I want to see what happens. We were at the dinner table and I was holding a conversation with my wife. And I overheard my 2 oldest daughters, one who's a rower, the other one's a swimmer, and started talking about how easy their practices were all of a sudden. And I just went, okay, that's it. Because these kids are in sick shape to begin with. And now their practices are easy, which their practices are absolutely good. Rowing and swimming, I don't think you can find 2 harder things to do. Fighting is easier than that, right? And so when I heard them saying that, that's when it was May 22nd. So I started 10 days before 22nd, which would have been, the 10th. I went out for Memorial Day and ran 22 miles for the 22 average veterans that commit suicide a day. And I hadn't run in over a year, more than like a mile or 2 or 3, maybe. I literally hadn't. And I went out and I ran 22 miles. I woke up the next day. I wasn't even sore. And I went, this is it. This is it. And Boss Rutan even said to me, and he captures it really well. He goes, this is what I've been looking for my entire life. This is it. We finally found it, Pat. And I said, yeah, this is it.
Well, it's pretty amazing when you have something that it's helping athletes, it's helping people that are ill, and the common denominator is we just don't get enough nutrition, and you're able to kind of get it in this BlackOxygen, which is kind of mind blowing that we're all, like you said, all nutrient deficient.
Yeah, and people will look at the back of the package for the ingredients, and there's some organic metals in it, and they freak out and they go, wait a minute, I'm allergic to this metal. And I go, I had to learn from Mark St. Onge, who was the formulator of this. He said, they don't understand. The organic forms of metals are used by the mitochondria within your cell as fuel to create energy. He goes, yeah, the inorganic sources of those metals would make anyone ill. These are the inorganic sources, or the organic sources of these metals. And so therefore, your mitochondria uses that portion of it anyway as fuel. And it's kind of hard to wrap my brain around, because I've been selling this for a year and 3 months. And I've heard so many testimonials from people about horrible rheumatoid arthritis subsiding and their blood test showing that it was gone, cancers, diabetes, autism, dementia, all these different types of conditions, because it was either heavy deposits like the brain conditions of autism and dementia and things like that. A lot of times when they do the autopsies on people who had problems with those, had heavy aluminum deposits in their brains, right? And so it's a chelator of heavy metals and toxins. So therefore, you get those heavy metals cleaned out of your brain cells, and all of a sudden, voila, you've got memory again, or it starts to come back. These symptoms of those conditions start to go away or subside, and that's It's really the simplest thing in the world, but it's hard. We've been so indoctrinated to think about Western medicine as a savior that we just don't understand that God had the answers in the soil, the whole time. And that's the thing, that it's really that simple. And it kind of freaks some people out, I think, where they're like, hey man, what are you selling? What's this snake oil that you're selling? It's not snake oil. It's fucking mud. It's mud. And it's healing. It's just, that's all I can say, right?
Yeah. Well, Pat, I think you and I have somewhat of a similar connection or story. I believe I've heard you talk about your childhood and your experience with black mold.
Yep.
Okay.
Horrible respiratory system. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when I was in elementary school, I had horrible respiratory issues every year, multiple times a year. I would get upper respiratory infections. I would get bronchitis. I was very sick. So I was making trips to Children's Hospital in Philadelphia with my mother. They were doing all kinds of allergy tests on me. I was on all different kinds of asthma medicine, to the point where at one point there was a new allergy medicine that had just come out within two or 3 weeks. And the doctor was like, hey, there's this new one. Let's try it. Within a week of me being on that medication, I had a grand mal seizure. My mother and my aunt had to do CPR on me until the paramedics arrived.
Wow.
And then I was in the hospital for 3 days. I was in a shopping store with my friend in the toy aisle. We were hanging out. We had a day off from school. Next thing I know, I come 3 days later in the hospital, and my family is like standing over top of me, waiting for me to open my eyes. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Wow.
So, nowadays we see everything is pharmaceutical commercials on TV. Back then it wasn't like that, but nowadays that's all you see. And, the last thing in those commercials is side effects may be. Well, this one particular medicine that I was on, one of the side effects was seizures. I just happened to be whatever it was that triggered that. Long story short, that was in 4th grade. 6th grade, I go to a different school. When I am in 7th grade, my elementary school that I went to elementary school, where I had all the health issues, was condemned for black mold.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. So I think that so many people who have asthma and other respiratory system issues, I didn't know anything about black mold when I was a kid. And I certainly didn't understand why the previous product that I was taking, it was every antioxidant known to man in a capsule form. And it was about 20% more oxygen at a cellular level. But that had taken the inflammation out of my respiratory system and allowed me to breathe correctly, which allowed me to do insane things endurance-wise, which allowed me to, in turn, win a world title. But imagine then 45% more oxygen and removal of the inflammation out of your entire body, and feeling, because when that product went away, it got bought out by another company and they put fillers in it. It's junk. But after I got on BlackOxygen it'd been over a decade easy that I had respiratory system issues again. And I felt like when I was running or exercising, that I was breathing through a pinhole, literally through a straw that was clogged with snot. That's how my breathing was. And I would go on these 20, 30, 40-mile runs with my friends, and I was miserable from the start to finish. I had so much lactic acid buildup, I couldn't breathe, and just snot pouring out of my nose constantly, inflammation, everything else. Now I don't even snore anymore. And now I feel like I'm breathing through a piece of PVC pipe this big. And it's life-changing. And I've had people with COPD that have oxygen tanks, and their respiratory systems, the inflammation goes out of them and they can breathe. And then the 45% more oxygen at a cellular level, their bodies are getting oxygen. It's just, and cell regeneration and healing and everything else starts to happen for them. So that's all these autoimmune issues and stuff like that from toxins that have either gotten into us by the boopity boops or by the water or food that we're eating or whatever it is. We built up those toxins and we've come up with some pretty serious autoimmune issues, and those things need to be addressed with the nutrients that we're not getting. And that's really a huge help in going back the other direction with people's health. And the biggest thing is not only people's health, but when you can change somebody's outlook on life. I've had people on the brink of suicide call me that they've been sick for so long. A friend that suffered for so many years and had numerous joint replacements from rheumatoid arthritis for 30 years. That guy, he's tried everything natural, homeopathic, everything, medicinal, Western medicine, everything. And he's at the end of his rope. He's just had enough, and you feel horrible for these people. And he just, he bluntly asked me, he goes, "Do you think this will help me?" And I go, "Well, considering what you've been through, it's sure worth a try." And he goes to his doctor and takes a blood test, and there's no more rheumatoid arthritis in his blood. That's freaking incredible, and his outlook on life completely changed, totally changed. He did a testimonial that I shared on my story. I'm telling you, it'll bring you to tears, man. It'll bring you to tears. My brother's story brought me to tears numerous times. It's just story after story after story like that, right? I will talk about this all day long to anyone who wants to hear me talk about it.
Can you talk a little bit about your brother's story? Because, I think that's one that I would like to hear about. And I know you already mentioned it. Obviously you have to put that disclaimer, that this doesn't, fix or cure anything. These are all just testimonials. Take it for what it is. But, I think that your brother's story is pretty impactful and pretty powerful.
Yeah, BlackOxygen does not treat, cure, or prevent any disease or sickness. It is not FDA approved because it is not a drug, right? So my brother started to get ill last spring, and into the summer became more and more ill at a very fast rate. And then he started having horrible abdominal pain. His internal organs, some of his internal organs started to swell, and was in absolute agony. He owned a landscaping business and did a lot of big projects, and very hardworking guy. And he just had to stop. He had to sell it. He was that ill, and I think he might have felt, this might be the end of the road anyway, because it got so bad so fast that by the time I saw him at my house when I had a 4th of July party, he showed up, and I took one look at him, and I've seen numerous people, with cancer and terminal cancer and stuff toward the end of the ride, and I kind of said to myself, he's got maybe a month or two to live, if that. He's done. And my sister came in my house. My brother was outside at the party. She came inside the house, and we've already lost 2 brothers. He's my last brother. So my sister comes in, and she breaks down in tears. She said, "He's gone, man. Like, he's got no time left." And that's a rough one. It's a rough thing to have to say. And so I said, I'm going to give it a shot with this BlackOxygen and see if it'll at least, take the inflammation out of his body and help him with his pain. And so I got him on that. 3 days later, he called me and he goes, "Dude, the pain's like manageable now. The inflammation's going down in my internal organs." And I said, "Good, it's at least starting to work. Okay, awesome. Just keep taking it 3 times a day because you're so sick, and let's see what happens." Well, he continued to improve, and he had blood tests done before he started BlackOxygen, and his white blood cell count was through the roof. Red blood cell count was way out of whack. 13 of 14 chemicals in your body completely screwed up, which showed, obviously he was very ill. And so he went back to the University of Iowa hospitals, and 2 months later, they did a blood test on him, and the oncologist said, "You don't have cancer anymore. Like, we can't find any cancer in your blood." And they're like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I told you what I'm doing. I'm doing BlackOxygen. Told you all along." And so then he went back 3 months later for a follow-up, and they just said, "You're in full remission. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're in full remission." And he was stage 4 terminal. He was done. And so the oncologists at the University of Iowa that treated my brother are now referring people to my brother to get BlackOxygen. one of those guys who's a ultra runner he lives out in LeClaire, Iowa, got started on it. Now his blood work has come back okay, and it's already starting to work on him. So that's the cool stuff. When you can honestly say that BlackOxygen saved my brother's life. I mean, that's, and he did other things. But he's fully convinced that it's BlackOxygen that stopped the cancer and that has kept him cancer free, because the alkaline environment of his cells and stuff in his blood. It's very tough for disease to exist in an alkaline environment. We know that. They've known that for many years, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are certain people who are going to listen, and there are certain people that are just not going to believe, right? We see all kinds of people like that. What I would say to the people that are kind of on the fence about this is, if you could change your health and your life for $2 a day, would you do it? If I could invest $2 a day to have my health completely turn around, the chances of that, I'm going to spend the $2 a day. I am. And there are people out there that won't, but that's okay, because that's their decision. But that's all I can say to people is $2 a day to change your life, to have that opportunity. That's a freaking lottery ticket, right? For a lot of people, that's a lottery ticket. Yeah. So that's but I'm going to sell it till the day I die, just because I've seen so many great things. And if I'm going to make a living, after spending your life, a lot of your adult life, beating the hell out of other people and ruining other people's dreams, think about that though. I realized my dreams by becoming a world champion by shitting all over a lot of other men's dreams, right? So in my mind, there's something to be said for doing a lot of good for society at the same time, coming back and trying to help people and getting those testimonials and those phone calls and those emails and the text messages of, things like, I don't know how to thank you. That'll help change your life too, right? When you do that for others, and that's kind of that's in the spirit, kind of the ultra running community. It's so diametrically different. So on a 180 from, mixed martial artists, a lot of them are actually very kind people. A lot of them have had rough childhoods, pretty rough around the edges and things like that. But they're the kind of people that would, like, if they saw a child being hurt, would destroy the world to save that child. That's the kind of arts that they have. But the ultra running community seems like so different, because it's, hey man, they just want you to finish the race too. That's something that I always loved, where they'll give you a bottle of water if you're dying on the trail, and they need the water, but they'd still give you the water because you're in worse shape than them. And that's what I love about the ultra running community, is they're just good, caring people. And BlackOxygen is like just a great, it kind of, in supplement terms, is like an ultra running, I don't know, it encapsulates it kind of, of just helping people.
Yeah.
I think your brother's testimony is worth its weight in gold, and regardless of if you get anything else from BlackOxygen, I think the fact that your brother's still alive is the gift. And to what you said is about, certain people aren't going to believe, right? A lot of stuff has been politicized in the past year, especially when it comes to nutrition and stuff. You can't talk about it. If all of a sudden, if you're taking certain supplements, you're a Republican. How do you think we can kind of get away from that mindset of things and try to educate people who might have it in a political way that, oh, you're a Republican because you take this, but hey, maybe you should look into this because this could help save your life or make you feel better?
Well, here's what I would say is somehow it's gotten politicized. But I don't know how. You got to think about, what president was presiding over the lockdowns when it started? What president pushed for Operation Warp Speed? What president allowed all these things to happen and take place? It wasn't a Democrat. It was a Republican. And, you know, there was a lot of, and I don't like talking politics anymore, but I've become now completely anti-politic. I didn't go to Washington, D.C. on the 6th to support Trump. I went because my friends wanted to go because they felt something historic was going to happen. And we witnessed what happened. And we witnessed the people that were involved. It wasn't just, you know, people who were getting caught up in the moment, Trump supporters, right? We know a lot of this stuff has been orchestrated to cause division in this country. And I'm trying to get people to stop being divided and look out for their fellow citizen, right? So it was liberals who went vegan first, right? I mean, they were the vegans. They were the, you know, don't eat gluten, don't do this, don't do that, look out for your health. I mean, I'm supposed to be a macho tough guy. I'm thinking, what is this gluten stuff they're talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. Well, then I read Wheat Belly. And then I wondered why I had severe arthritis symptoms for a decade. And then I went and got blood tests done. And my good friend, who's a Marine, by the way, a former Marine and a conservative, goes, you're severely allergic to gluten. You're going to be dead in 3 years from a heart attack if you don't stop eating it. You've got 3 forms of arthritis. And I went, holy shit, this is real. So that's not politics, that's knowledge, right? That's all it is. And so, look, get the injection, don't get the injection. If you're going to get the injection, fucking research what you're putting in your body. My God, it blows my mind. We've been told our whole lives, don't do drugs. Don't do experimental drugs. And they're going, well, little Johnny and Joey are kids. You know, you need to get the boopity boop, as my friend Jason Burmis calls it. Like, fucking read something. The information is out there, right? Go research what is in it. And then every ingredient, write them down and then go research what that does and what is in that and the effects on the human body. And, you know, that's the thing. It's not political. It's about my fellow citizens' lives and their health and their children and everything associated with that. You know what I mean? So I think that, did people go out and get the injection because they hated Trump so much in the beginning or in the, I don't understand. Was it an act of revolt to do it? Just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I fear for mankind overall. I really do. I can only pray that people, you know, kind of start doing their own research. I really hope they do. You know, I don't want to argue with anybody. Do what you want, but be very careful telling other people what they can and can't do with their health. Be very careful, because once you try to violate certainly my individual sovereignty in terms of my body, that's the last line of defense, and my children, right? You start trying to do that to my children, and maybe that's what they're trying to have us do. They want to fight, right? They want us to fight each other. Yep. So I just beg my fellow citizens to, hey, look, do what you want, but just don't try and dictate other things and mandatory stuff in terms of health, in terms of medical devices and medical procedures, because that's where things get ugly, obviously, and we really don't want to go there.
Right. You know, I heard an interesting quote last night. Who said, the gentleman said, "If you can read but you don't read, are you really literate?"
Well, I mean, yeah, that's and look, I can tell, because I went to a school board meeting where they listened to both sides of the people who were parents who were. I'm on the side where I just said, give us a choice. My kids don't want to wear a mask. This is doing damage to their respiratory systems. You know, a lot of kids were falling asleep in school because they're not getting enough oxygen, lack of oxygen. Okay. And it's really hard to explain this to even a doctor. And the doctor, who's the superintendent of my school district, and you say things like 3 things to stay alive: food, water, oxygen. Which one, if you take away, will you die the fastest? oxygen. And you're making my kids try and breathe through masks? Are you high? And you're a doctor? Fucking kidding me, right? So that's the sort of stuff it's like you're talking to a robot, because she had a pre-written speech. She said it wasn't pre-written, but she had a pre-written speech after a ton of the parents, including myself, who said, give us a choice. And I had to go through the comparisons of the phrases that were being used in Nazi Germany, late 1930s, and the phrases that are being used now, and that they're identical, right? And we've seen them all. Essential worker, the one-armed puller in Schindler's List, when the German soldiers walked him down the street when all the Jewish folks were shoveling snow and they shot him in the face while he was saying, but I'm an essential worker, right? I had to go through that stuff with the school board, and 2 of them, God bless them, voted for the kids to have a choice. But the 3 of them didn't, and she had a pre-written speech. And I literally stood up while she was talking, and I said, this is not America. This is not America. This is not freedom. This is insanity. And she goes, sir, you need to sit down and be quiet. I said, actually, no, I don't. I'm gonna stand here and I'm gonna talk. And I started to walk out, and I stopped, and I turned around and I said, very, very loudly in the auditorium for all the parents to hear. And I called her a little Eichmann. I said, you're a little Eichmann. And her eyes got real big. And I said it again. I said, yeah, you're a little Eichmann. And walked out, and I sat down in a chair outside of there just so I could cool down, because I was furious. And a police officer walked up to me, and he shook my hand, and he said, I have children, man. He goes, I believe in what you're doing, and I know exactly why you're doing it. We all see what's coming. We all see what these people are doing. So, that's the thing is, people have to stand up. People have got to stand up, got to band together. There's a lot of people that think like we do, but a lot of people are afraid to say anything, right? Thinking that they'll get attacked. Look, if you don't do anything, the target goes on our kids. I've been attacked enough, but they're not attacking my kids, right? So that's what people have to do. And I had one guy say this to me. He goes, Pat, he goes, I appreciate what you're doing, man. He goes, all you're doing. And he goes, I know you've been through a lot. And he goes, but he goes, I want to say something. I want to do something. He goes, but I have kids. And I just looked at him. I went, that's why you do it. That's why you do something. People are afraid, man. They're afraid. And I get it. I get it. But you got to do something with it. You got to walk through that fear. You know what I mean? I think that I've just done so many things in my life that I was terrified of, that I'm just fucking used to doing scary shit that scares me, right? If people don't think I'm afraid about what these people are capable of, they're wrong. I'm not oblivious to history and what these people, eventually try doing. But God, what would they be doing if none of us stood up, right? So that's the thing. So I'm going to stay safe, stay healthy, how I choose, and everybody else can do the same thing. Just don't tell me how to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat, I appreciate you speaking up for all of us. And we know you were in DC when all that stuff went down, and there were ramifications for it. But you're a pretty strong person, and you keep on fighting the good fight. How do you stay on that path when the stuff with the LFA happens, when people are coming down on you, and at the end of the day, you're just fighting for our rights and our ability to choose? How do you stay positive when all this stuff is kind of coming down, and in your heart of hearts that you're right and you're fighting for truth?
Well, that's the most dangerous time for anyone, is when you're right, right? It can be a dangerous thing. It can be a very dangerous thing. And I think there's people maybe who choose the word discernment for how they conduct themselves, where they don't say anything, or they put it much differently or politically correct. I've got a friend who's a motivational speaker, great person, thinks the exact same way I do. But she chooses to use words like, holding yourself accountable for your actions, things like that. Society needs to focus on themselves. If we want change in the world, focus on ourselves and things like that, you know. And the thing is I probably could use more discernment, to be honest with you. I'm a little rough around the edges with people. But sometimes that wakes people up, right? I mean, I've had people freak out on me when I was talking, absolutely lose their mind on me. And initially it's an argument, but after I slowly diffuse it with asking them questions and making them think, things like that, you know, we make ground, you know what I mean? So I think there's different tactics and techniques, but as far as keeping myself calm, I mean, there's times where I'm not calm. You know, I have to pray. I mean, I have to, you know, where Jeff and I, you know, we saw this coming long before it happened. We told people when it was coming, when it would start, you know, that sort of stuff. And again, back to help people understand why I'm not political anymore is because it was about halfway through Trump's administration where I went, he's done too many things that throw up red flags. Like these are not good signs. He renewed the NDAA, you know, which is about as bad as you can get in terms of taking people's rights, right? You know, he didn't fire Fauci. He sat over the lockdowns. He did, you know, all of these things, which showed me he wasn't who he said he was. And the reason I voted for him because he wasn't a politician, right? But now when that happens, you realize the last good president was Kennedy, and they fucking shot him at midday in Dallas, right? In an American city. Fucking shot him. And you go, okay, well, hopefully the American people wake up to this stuff. And it's probably going to take a lot of pain for that to happen, right?
Yeah. And people, I don't think some people aren't even aware that the term conspiracy theorist came from that event and that incident.
Right. Yep. To discredit anyone who questioned the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But, you know, that's why I'm not political. I've been a non-believer in the Republican Party for a long time. I mean, you know, I'm a Rand Paul kind of guy, and his dad, Ron. Gosh, they're the only guys that are probably spitting the truth these days, right? In politics, very few others. So, you know, but anyway, I don't want to get too far off. We've gone way off the rails. But so our health is not a political discussion. It really isn't. It's about education. It's about, you know, research. Even a guy who's been punched in the head for many, many years can do a little bit of research and understand why BlackOxygen works and other organic sources, you know, plants, mushrooms, you know, fungi, all these different types of things. My mind was completely opened up so much more by BlackOxygen in terms of educating myself on real, true health than even all the combined years before as a professional athlete, as a coach, and everything else. I've learned more in the past 15, 16 months because of BlackOxygen than I ever did in all those years combined before. And that's, you know, that's saying something because I was a guy who was a label reader, you know.
What of the three products do you use? Do you use all of them? Do you have a favorite one? You know, I have the tablets.
I keep the powder in this container and I go everywhere with it. It leaves the house with me, so I have it with me all the time. I'll leave it in my truck, and then I've got other bags of it. I have used the coffee. I like the coffee. Coffee is very good. I've used the tablets. I just don't need the flavor additive, which is a natural flavor additive that they put in the tablets that they compress. I don't need it. I want the powder because the powder is the original form after it gets the CO2 pressurized and freeze drying process. This is what it comes out of. I mean, and that's what I want. I want the original source. And it, you know, I think, and many other people think that because it's that true original form, that it's a little more powerful, kicks in a little harder. And I mean, I can tell if I'm not feeling real good in the morning and I get done drinking my BlackOxygen, I'll mix it in my coffee sometimes as well, where I just go, well, that's gone. I don't feel bad. I don't, you know, whether I'm groggy, tired, you know, something like that. It's just, It goes away. So that's a beautiful feeling. And I have about 30 bags of black oxygen powder stored in the basement that I keep extra, not to sell, but just in case any supply lines get screwed up by, what the people running this planet, do. We have no idea what they're going to do. We have an idea, but so that I don't run out. I don't ever want to be out of this stuff again, ever. I mean, that's how much. And I've had people call me and go, man, I didn't reorder. And I figured that in a week or two after they were on it for 50 days, and they go, holy shit, now I realize what it was doing, right? And they get back on it after that.
That's one thing I wanted to ask you, Pat. Have you taken a week off since you started?
I haven't. I've taken it every day, to be honest with you.
All right.
The thing is, just because I know what it's done for me and I can feel it every day, and I was on that other product for the vast majority of my kickboxing career, my pro kickboxing career, and my UFC career, my MMA career. And so I was on it for so long that it took a longer period of time for my body to degenerate back to being sick, right? But I have only been on black oxygen now for 15 months or so. I don't want to find out what I'm going to feel like if I'm not on it for a week, you know what I mean? Maybe my body's saturated with nutrients for enough time that would carry me over, but I just don't want to find out. Absolutely don't want to find out.
Yeah, in terms of coming off of something like that, the only reason why I would do that would be for a testimonial purpose, because I know the benefits of really, really high level omegas fish oil. And the only reason I know that is because when I got on it, I didn't necessarily notice anything specific of like a change. It was when I came off of it, like if I was traveling and I couldn't bring the liquid with me and I had missed 3 or 4 days, and then all of a sudden, like my old wrestling elbow came back, as I'm getting off the plane, and I'm like, man, I need to get back on my fish oil. So that would be one reason why I would do it. And in terms of the powder, if you mix that in your water, it just tastes like water. You're not drinking. It's not like beetroot,
If you don't mix it in enough water, it'll taste a little earthy.
Okay.
It'll taste earthy. So I try to mix it in, and look, I've never cared about taste. I can eat anything on the planet. I've eaten almost everything on the planet. I mean, when I was a kid, just because I was always out in the woods and stuff, I mean, I was a kid that would catch a bull snake, chop its head off. I'm 7 years old at the time. Chop its head off, skin it, gut it, and then cook it over a fire that I made in the woods. I'm 7 years old, and I'm eating bull snake, right? I just didn't. That's the way I was. But I think also wrestling my whole life and cutting weight, which was starvation. I appreciate food so much that I can literally eat anything. So I never cared about taste. Certainly when I was training for fights and making sure that I was eating really strict. As long as I knew it was the proper fuel to get in better shape and get body mass, my body fat down and stuff, I would eat it. I didn't care what it tasted like. But I mean, my 7-year-old daughter guzzles black oxygen. She loves it, and animals love it. And I've had people send me pictures where they'll put down a bowl of water and a bowl of black oxygen water, and their cats or dogs will go to the black oxygen because they instinctually, because they're more connected to nature, they know where they should be drinking from. Like, they don't want to drink out of just water. They want to be drinking this because they know they're getting nutrients from it. It's kind of cool to see wild animals instinctually know what to put in their body.
I mean, that in and of itself is a promotional, that's a commercial right there. Like, your dog knows more than you do.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, is, that now it's slipping my mind, unfortunately, where you take a sugar pill and you think you're better. That's
placebo.
Animals don't understand placebo. My 12-year-old Australian Shepherd that has horrible arthritis and gimps around until she drank black oxygen and was running around, like a puppy again. She doesn't understand placebo, right? She just knows she can run again. That was it, right? So that sort of stuff, that do a test on your animal if they're old, if they've got, arthritis and they're gimping. Put down a bowl of BlackOxygen for them. Let them drink it and keep refilling the water in it until it's clear, and then add more BlackOxygen, right? And keep doing that for them and see what happens to your arthritic dog, or your dog that's ill or has skin issues or whatever. So people can take baths in this stuff, and eczema and psoriasis, and it's. I had a friend with a 3-year-old son that had eczema all over his entire back, and he took one bath and the eczema was almost completely gone in one bath. That's pretty amazing stuff, because your skin is your biggest organ, and you're going to absorb stuff through it, right? We absorb stuff. That's why I tell people, don't use the shampoos and the deodorants and the conditioners and the skin creams that have all these chemicals in them, because that's what's throwing the testosterone, estrogen levels off. And that's why we're seeing so many men and boys that are acting very feminine, because that's what's happening to their hormones, right?
But you're not allowed to talk about that, Pat.
I talk about it. And you know what? I tell people, I go, look, it's your choice. I mean, if you want to feel feminine, keep eating whatever it is the fuck you're eating, and keep putting on your skin whatever it is you're putting on your skin. That's your business. But don't criticize me when I tell you why you are acting the way you are, and why you can't lift more weight than me, right? And why your voice is like this. It's because of the hormonal system is all screwed up, and that's not natural. It's just not natural. So people can say what they want, and that's not political either, right? That's, again, human health, the hormone system.
Right.
It's fucking common sense.
Well, and I'm the youngest on the call, but when I was growing up, and I know when you guys were growing up, it wasn't a thing. Maybe 1 or 2 in your town, but now, and we're in Denver, so it's probably a little bit different where you are, but it's all over the place. And as a man who was born in the 80s, I am not comfortable with it. I don't want to be around it. I don't want to be associated with it. And if I speak that in public, now I'm a bad person. But when we were growing up, it wasn't a thing.
No, I mean, it certainly wasn't a thing. And I mean, I was raised by my coaches, by police officers, by people in the community, men that, were strong male role models and things like that. And that's what young boys need. They need that. They need men who, have no problem handing out tough love to them and chewing their asses and getting them back in line. Society is obviously missing a lot of that. And that's a big problem of why we're seeing so much violence in the world today too, right?
Yeah,
it really is, because instinctually masculine men are going to be protectors of those who are weak, right? Like, I would never have a problem. I just never had a problem getting in a cage and fighting another guy who was very dangerous. And honestly, when I was younger, I was in a lot of street fights. That was something that I'm not proud of. But at least I've got the skill set and the ability to, if I see someone who's weak being oppressed and injured by someone who's stronger, I have the ability to most likely stop that, and that's kind of an important skill set to have in the world today.
Yep. Do you do any training anymore still? And not physically training, but do you do any coaching and stuff with that sort of stuff in terms of self-defense or any?
I've been working with a few young fighters here and there, just helping them fix, their fundamentals and things like that, footwork, head movement, defensive skills. My thing is, what I've always had a problem with when I watch fights, is people that are all offense and no defense, and that doesn't make for really a bright future intellectually, probably for a lot of people who take a lot of abuse. And, I'm probably I'm not the same guy I was when I started fighting. I know that, but I'm certainly not near as bad as a lot of guys out there. There's, a lot of older fighters who have got some pretty serious neurological and mental issues, motor skill issues, things like that. I learned that from seeing the old old boxers and old kickboxers, some of them, when I talk to them and see how they moved and things like that, I said, I really want to pay attention to defense. And so that's what I try to relay and pass down to some of the people that I talk to or work with, who are young athletes is, if you're going to be in this sport, do it right. You really have to focus on the defensive part of things, because just as in any sport, if they can't score on you, they can't beat you. But in our sport, if they can't hit you, they can't hurt you. And so spend your time focusing on that, and the rest of it's pretty easy. I mean, anybody can throw a punch. Anybody can learn how to throw a kick, but to understand defense and how to protect yourself really, really well, very few people are, super good at that.
Yeah, I'm always kind of perplexed when really good wrestlers that start off and use their wrestling skills to help them win fights start wanting to stand and bang with people. I don't
Well,
get
I
why
think I think that, our society has put a lot of pressure on those guys to be quote unquote more exciting, right? And so that's what they think. And unfortunately can be more marketable, right? And they want that fight of the night or knockout of the night bonus. When it's financially incentivized, no matter what it is in society, people generally are going to do it, right? Whether it's right or wrong, for them personally, even they're going to do it. So that's why you see a lot of it. I never cared to have knockout of the night or fight of the night. I just, wanted to keep paying my mortgage. Yeah. That's how I did it. As long as I keep winning, they're going to have a tough time getting rid of me. But that's the thing. Like I said, I don't want to see young kids go through stuff they don't need to go through, because it is a very, very brutal sport, especially if you're on the losing end. It can be at times even on the winning end, right? I've seen many UFCs that I was at over the years where, they're doing the interviews in the cage, and you might think they're not hurt, but I've seen the entire card go to the hospital after the show. They're getting taken in ambulances to the hospital. So it's a rough sport. So people, really need to focus on taking care of themselves, and do a lot of, not the type of stuff that breaks the body down all the time. A little more regenerative movements, yoga, swimming, things like that to keep their body healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Smarter, not harder.
BlackOxygen. There's a lot of people in the UFC that are on BlackOxygen, by the way.
Yeah. So I have the tablets. Is there a way within my subscription that I can change that over to the on the website to the powder? Or do I need to call the company to do that?
No, you should be able to go in and switch that. You should be able to go in and switch that. Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. So how long have you been on it now?
This will be my, was it Jim, second week, third week?
I think it's your second week.
Second week, yeah. I mean, about a week and a half in right now, and I have the tablets. But to me, the subtle orange flavor reminds me like of being a kid back in the day, the orange Pez. So I'm not mad at that. But if it's a little bit more potent in the powder form, I definitely want to switch over because, like I said,
I feel a lot of people have said that to me too. So, and you can mix it in anything you want.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, you could mix it up in applesauce and eat it if you wanted to. You know what I mean? So that's the thing is, I'll put it in my coffee every once in a while, but usually in a bottle of water or whatever, shake it up real good and pound it down. And I feel it. I've had people, a guy he was dying of black lung, for God's sakes, right? Of all things. Looked awful. His name's Casey Nunez he's originally from New Orleans. And he has a bunch of land down in southern Mississippi now. But he got on it, and he sent me a video from being in bed and not being able to get out of bed hardly to running through a pine forest or whatever he's got down there with his phone up in the air going, "Look at this, dude. I'm running. And to look at him now, and he's a brand partner as well because of what it's done for his life, for him, for his wife's mother. Changed. She was 85 years old, and suddenly she's like a spring chicken running around the property too. But he started selling it, and but Casey's hair is going from white back to black, and his skin has completely changed. His skin is healing. You can tell he looks 25 years younger. It's pretty cool to see the transition. You know what I mean? So you've only been on it 2 or 3 weeks. Wait till you've been on this stuff for a year. You know, it took a lot of time to have, you know, health issues arise, and you've obviously been addressing them with a lot of different organic and natural ways. But yeah, it's going to make some huge differences in a year. It really will.
Well, hopefully that hair will come back. You know, I'll be looking forward to that.
I don't know if I can promise you that, but the hair you got is going to look a lot better.
It's not gray; it's just falling out. So, but I think some of that had to do with the last year more than anything.
Yeah, you and me both, man.
Yeah.
You and me both. It's been a little bit of a crazy year for everybody, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm praying for everybody, man, out there that, you know, when we do something like this, we care about our fellow citizens, right? We care about our country. We care about our kids' future. That's why we talk about these things, and it comes from the heart. It's got to come from the heart. You know, like I said, I'm rough around the edges sometimes when I talk to people about stuff. But understand it does come from me caring. I want people to be healthy. You know, I want people to live great lives, prosperous lives, and lives that, you know, they aren't just physically miserable, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's all we can do is give our knowledge, and some people, God bless them, some people won't take it, but, you know, hopefully a lot more people start to. And I think that this whole past year and a half has made people who never were thinking about their health suddenly start thinking about their health, right? Like, you know, I am overweight. I need to address that. I should get, you know, because the vast majority of people who had serious COVID issues were obese. You know, that's something that, you know, was causing health issues anyway, with all the different stuff that obesity brings health-wise. But certainly with COVID, I think it woke a lot of people up. It was a good wake-up call for some ways.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we talk about over here is, you know, is upside down as the last year and a half has been. We just always try to focus on the positive things within ourselves and the things that we see in humanity. And yeah, definitely it is refreshing to see people starting to wake up and take their health into their own hand, and seeing overweight people out now walking or riding their bicycles or you know, running at the park and stuff like that. So it's just always grateful to see positive changes like that, for sure.
And that's something that, you know, when I see someone who's obese, who's outside walking or jogging, trying to jog, or at the gym, I'm like, fuck yeah, good for them, man, good for them.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, that's where, you know, they need knowledge like this on what to put in their body, because anybody can train hard, but it always comes down to the difference. For you take 10 people who are training hard, and 2 of them are putting really good solid stuff in their body and getting proper sleep, they're almost always going to do better. They're just going to. They're going to be leaner. They're going to be faster. They're going to be stronger. You know, it's just the way it is. So it always comes down to the fuel. You know, don't put shitty fuel in a Ferrari. Don't do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rapid
Jim,
fire.
you got anything else?
Yeah, one last thing before we get into rapid fire. I want to thank you for the last time you were on this podcast, because you hit me. I know Rich knew about it, but you hit me to Operation Mockingbird, and that was my red pill moment. That was the squeegee to my third eye, because that took me down a wormhole. Then it took me down Charles Manson, CIA, all that stuff. So I just want to thank you for the information you put out there, Pat, because I've been such a fan of yours through fighting, and to show you how much of a fan.
Nice Silverbacks jersey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Airey Bros are not fair weather Pat Miletich fans. We've been fans since we started watching MMA. So to have someone like you educate me on other things besides MMA, that to me, that's worth its weight in gold. So keep on doing what you do and talking the truths that you talk, because you're talking to bros like me. So thanks for
I
that.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. And again, like we say, I've been saying is none of this is political. I think we all have to just throw the politics aside and just think of our fellow citizens and just start caring about each other and understand that why would they want us bickering about things like what our skin color is? Who the fuck cares? Why would we argue about religion? Who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit about any of that stuff in the end. But the people that are manipulating us and making us, making society, go at each other like cats and dogs. It's just so blatantly obvious to guys like you and I. We see it all, and we recognize that literally everything we've been taught was incorrect for a reason, right? And I think my life experiences made me a person that just I'm a trust but verify kind of person, and it didn't take me long to verify that the media was full of shit many years ago, and that's I'm thankful that through my life experiences it gave me the ability to turn my head sideways like a puppy dog and go, you know what, man, that's not vibing with me. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna hate somebody because of that. That's not a reason to dislike somebody, right? That's just not. And they're doing the same thing to them to make them dislike me. Yeah, fuck you. All right, just fuck you. Fuck the media, and let's start caring about each other and show them that it's not working. We have to show them that it's not working, right? And that's all of that stuff, all that division for all those different reasons, whether it was gender or color or religion or monetarily or whatever, politics. It was all to prep people for, did you get injected or didn't you get injected? Are you unclean? Are you a carrier of disease? Should you have a yellow star on your shirt, right? That's what it was prepping people to think emotionally instead of using their cognitive thought processes and objectively looking at things. And that's what I continue to urge people to do is, and I'll leave you with this. And I don't know if I told this story the last time I was on, but it's worth repeating. When I haven't done it in a long time, but certainly COVID slowed down seminars for me. But when I would teach seminars to adults, I would deliberately every once in a while during a seminar, and I didn't do it at every seminar, I just did it periodically. I would teach a technique that was so ridiculously bad and useless and would get you hurt by anyone who knew what they were doing, because I wanted to see if people would do it. I just wanted to see if they would actually do the technique. So I would show it, demonstrate the technique, and then I'd go lean against the wall and say, 10 reps each back and forth until I tell you to stop, and I'll correct mistakes. And so I'd let the people practice this absolutely off the wall, ridiculous technique that would never work. And if there was anybody in the room who was a world-class fighter or coach, would pull me aside and go, Miletich, what the fuck was that? Like, what are you doing? So I just wanted to see how, the power of suggestion from a person that they deemed to be an authority figure, how legit was that? And so the people in the seminar would start doing the technique, and I'd have to just cover my mouth so I wouldn't start laughing. And I'd watch it for a minute or two, and then I'd walk out to the center of the room. I go, everybody circle up. They would say, is there anybody in this room who questioned what I just taught you guys? So anybody, raise your hand if there was anybody here that questioned the technique that I just taught you guys and had you practice. And there'd be a couple people kind of raise their hands, and I go, if you don't learn anything from me in this seminar, or take nothing away from this besides one thing, take this away. That no matter what you're told or what you're shown, no matter how much an authority or what letters are behind their name, or no matter who they are, do not believe it 100% until you research it. Research, and just don't accept things as truth. I go, because that was a technique that was completely bullshit, and I just thought it up just to see if you guys would do it, right? And I, they just kind of you could tell they were kind of like, fuck, wow. But it was a good lesson for, I think, the people in the room. And that's what I try to urge people now today. That's why I tell that story now is, hey, man, take a step back and evaluate the data. Go research and read and listen to other scientists and doctors, because it's out there. And make a truly educated decision about your own health, on what's going on and what you should be putting in your body to keep yourself healthy, to lose weight, to whatever it is, to get better as a human being. And just don't take things as gospel from anyone, just don't do it. So that's how I don't know. I noticed when I saw a hypnotherapist comedian do it to 25 people on stage, I went, man, there's a Hell's Angel on stage giving birth to a baby. This guy would never do that if he wasn't hypnotized, right? And then I realized, well, that's what the media does. And then my friend who's a hypnotherapist explained it during a video I did with him. And he said, this is how the media does it. Because a hypnotherapist elicits an emotion and then they make a suggestion. And they do that back and forth to take you down that road and get you to be hypnotized. And so anyway, he says they show you images of body bags, of refrigerator trucks, of a Chinese person in Wuhan hospital having a convulsion. And then all of a sudden, so they're instilling fear and emotion. And then a talking head comes on whom you've assumed your whole life is, well, if they're on TV, they're telling me the truth. And they tell you, put on a mask and lock yourself in place and stay safe and stay alive. And, let's save our own lives and our grandma and grandpas and everything else. And so it goes past the objective part of the brain and they don't even think about it or question it. It just gets seeded as a belief in the reptile part of the brain. And you just can't, that's why you can't have a normal conversation with someone who has a belief that we're all going to die from this, right? From certainly the original form of COVID. You really can't talk to them. And all I can do is tell them, I just try to ask them questions, like I said, what's in the injection? What is it you're about to put in your body? I would like to know, right? When you think that if I'm telling my children to go get injected with something, shouldn't I have researched it? Right? You got, that's what I tell people, man, just take it from a guy who's, everybody says, has CTE in his punch drunk. Even I researched, even I asked questions of research scientists and doctors, and they've given me different perspectives on their take on things, some very severe, some not, but then it's in my hands to make a decision. But at least I've been educated on the subject, right?
Yeah.
So, and these aren't just average scientists. These are gentlemen who were on the gene therapy research team. And one of them was basically the head of it for Pfizer, right? He walked away from Pfizer when he saw what they were going to do. That should tell you. Yeah. So anyway, do your own research, put the right stuff in your body. BlackOxygen being at the top of my list, along with downrange supplements. I use their aminos and their proteins, and I use Tim James's chemical-free body, Greens 85 with it, Gen Kana CBD oil. So that's my combo of stuff that I put together with my BlackOxygen most of the time. So I'm feeling my muscles grow, and I'm 55.
Hell yeah. Pat, if people want to get into and get onto the BlackOxygen, where would you like us to direct them? Do you have a specific site for your sales, or do you want them to go right to the main site?
No, they have to have a link for a brand partner to be able to purchase it. And since you're doing a podcast, you should actually become a brand partner. It costs $1 to be a brand partner. And I can explain all of it to you. You guys should be doing it. A lot of podcasters that I've done podcasts with have started doing it. So, but they can go to my brother's site. Since I used his testimonial today, they can go to blackoxygenorganics.com/John, John, Miletich, Miletich. So blackoxygenorganics.com/John Miletich, and purchase their products from him and get him some financial benefits for being a cancer survivor. And you know, he had to sell his business, and very hardworking guy, has been his whole life. And he's the spitting image of a warrior, man. He really is. And he has stayed positive through even having terminal cancer. That he never quit fighting. And that, I tell you what, me being a guy who fought for a living, is nothing compared to seeing what I've seen with people who have fought cancer. You know what I mean?
Heck yeah.
So yeah. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely. We want to be respectful of your time. I don't want to keep you too much longer here. So I'll reach out to you on the socials and get some more info on being a brand ambassador or whatever it is, that we can get that going with the podcast. Excellent. And if you had a recommendation for a guy that grew up at the Jersey Shore, loves running in the mountains, and is a trail runner and an ultra marathoner, where would be the place to live in Iowa?
You know, probably northeast Iowa, to be honest with you, because that's up by Dubuque and Macokota, and there's a lot of what's it called? The Mines of Spain Ultra is up there, and a lot of people say it's really brutal because it's a lot of up and down stuff, a lot of bluffs up in that area. Yep. There's no mountains like Colorado or anything like that, but it's some pretty rugged terrain. So you absolutely love it up there. South Iowa is beautiful too. But I live in the far east side of Iowa by the Mississippi River. There's some good hills here, but nothing like northeast Iowa. It's really beautiful up there. So you're more than welcome to come to Iowa, though.
Yeah, thank you.
You
got good wrestling up in northeast Iowa,
dude. The minute you step in Iowa, they're throwing you on your back. You know, think about this: the shitty wrestlers go out for basketball in my state.
I love it.
Pat, thank you so much for your time. It is an honor and a pleasure. Like I said before, we are longtime fans, Jen Pulver guys. I was a huge Matt Hughes guy, so you had a big.
You were a Frank Trigg guy. Get out of here. I was a Matt Hughes guy.
I used to warm up in the Matt.
I'm kidding you.
I used to warm up in the Matt Hughes Army of the One sweatshirt when I was at JUCO. But yes, awesome. I was a Frank Trigg guy for sure. But I liked Matt Hughes. Thanks for throwing me under the bus, Rich. But Pat, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all that you do.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Appreciate you, Pat.
Stay healthy, stay positive.
You too. Appreciate you. Have a great night.
All right, guys, take care.